Learning to be alone but not lonely was a
Mm.
huge, and I'm still figuring it out. This is all
Right.
lifelong lessons, but like
Yes.
I love my alone time. And if you were to say this to me when I was still active on the show, I would have been like, there's no way in hell. I was never alone. I went, and this is why I'm choosing celibacy and choosing to not date. I've never been single like ever in my life since I was
Hmm.
13. This has been very empowering for me, and I am not even near or close to wanting to even try to date at the moment.
Well, hello there, and welcome to this episode of the Terry Cole Show. This is one of my favorite episodes that I've recorded with a guest. This is Cheryl Burke, who you may know. She is lovely. She is a dancer. She was Dancing with the Stars for 26 seasons, but she really is like such an amazing mental health advocate. And I started following her, or she started following me. I don't know. I just met her on social and we just kind of became friendly. But she has over 30 years dance experience, twice Emmy nominated professional dancer, ballroom dancing, all the different kinds of dancing. But she really like skyrocketed to fame when she was 21 with ABC's Dancing with the Stars. So she's only 40 now. And she has had so much living and so much life and a lot of trauma and addiction and loss in her life that she speaks about so beautifully and so candidly. And I've really found this episode so hopeful, and I just love how honest she is. She's got a great podcast now that I think is fantastic called Sex, Lies, and Spray Tans with Cheryl Burke. But she's really doing so much to open up the dialogue around mental health and sharing her own journey. So I hope that you enjoy this interview with gal pal Cheryl Burke as much as I enjoyed interviewing her. I'm super excited to welcome Cheryl Burke to the Terry Cole Show. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me. I'm such a fan of your work, and thank you because you really, you have a way of explaining things, especially to people who may not be so familiar with therapy. I've been in therapy since I was born, and I'm a huge advocate for therapy, but it really helps, to just be able to put the vocabulary in a way where people can actually digest it.
Why, thank you, my dear. And I, on the other hand, as I was just telling the listeners and watchers, have been a fan of yours for years and years as well. And it's so interesting how I love, and I think probably I'm drawn to you even before you were talking about mental health stuff publicly. I was
Okay.
always drawn, you have such an empathic spirit, even just when
Oh,
you're dancing, like there was something about your aura that I always was like just attracted to. And
oh,
then you started really talking publicly about mental health stuff. And I was like, dude, she's helping so
I
many
just got
people.
chills.
I know. I feel like I'm going to cry. I'm going to try not to.
Oh, thank you. That means so much to me. I've been blessed to be able to talk about it, and I credit therapy because if it wasn't for therapy, I don't think I would even, first of all, be aware of what was going on. Not, I mean, it's not black and white, obviously, but
Mhm.
yeah, this is it's an interesting time we live in. And it's about, for me at least, what was my purpose of even being
Mm.
able to be on an amazing show that reached millions of people. I knew in my heart when I retired from the show that I'm not done. I'm not done being of service. I think on that show, it's very much of the celebrity, right? Like the one person
Yep.
I'm with, and 26 seasons later, I'm like, there's more layers of the onion.
Yeah, but what's
Yeah.
so interesting is that that's how, as you evolve, it's almost like you're bringing your fans with you on this evolutionary path. And it's funny, the people who follow you are people who are interested in what you're doing. And then, of course, you're going to have like the trolls and the haters too, because
Yeah.
this is just
God,
the
gotta
internet.
love them.
You,
Gotta block them.
listen, you got to block them is correct.
Yes.
But let's talk a little bit about sex lives and spray tans.
Okay.
So this is your new pod, April 29th, 2024. I love it. I think it's great. You're talking about all kinds of things, but tell us what inspired you and let's just talk about the pod. What are you doing on
Sure,
it?
sure. So this is my actual third podcast with iHeartMedia, and it's been another, I guess, platform for me to express myself, not through movement, but by speaking, which is interesting because as a little girl, I actually had no words. I was frozen for quite a few years. My mom thought I was actually deaf. And so she brought me to a hearing specialist, but it was just the PTSD, which I'm sure we'll get to later. But this
Yep.
has been an interesting avenue for me to, it's always been like, okay, so this is the niche. It's Dancing with the Stars for sex lies and spray tans, or for the other
Mhm.
podcast, Burke in the Game, it's Cheryl and dating. And it always goes back to mental health. I don't care what niche you're going to throw me in, but like obviously you give me a mic and I'm going to talk about what I'm passionate about, which has it, I mean, it really does. If you think about it, it's a domino effect. When
Yeah.
people come on Dancing with the Stars, there's also a side of it that psychologically messes with your head, and really
Yep.
you go through an experience that's so consuming. 7 days a week you're with this person. It teaches you about relationships, it teaches you
Mhm.
how to communicate, it teaches you patience, your shadow follows you. And if you're not open to being vulnerable on the show, I've noticed such a pattern. Even when I was on the show prior to the podcast, it's just going to bite you in the ass. And I think that's related to life in general.
Mhm.
And so, like, I've talked to so many of my guests, and after experiencing such an intense, like, 3 months of your life, even if you don't make it all the way to the finals, it's irrelevant. You don't ever talk about it again. You get eliminated, they put you on a plane, you go to and do press in New York, you come back, and it was your past now at this point. But like, that's
Yep.
not healthy. We need to talk about it. With every amazing experience, there's ups and downs, but I'm also, obviously, we're all grateful for this platform that we've been able to share. And I've been able to express myself and my passion and what actually saved my life, which is dance, and now it's being able to figure out a way to translate all of this into words.
You're also, though, helping other people because in the people who are coming on the show,
Mm-hmm.
people, we want to talk about what's real. And you're inspiring people to talk about their stories, but also their anxiety, what they're going through, what's
Mm-hmm.
happening. So I almost feel like you sharing in the way that you do gives other people permission to feel
Mm-hmm.
like it's okay to. And in fact, how good it feels when we're
Oh,
all telling the truth. Like we all struggle. And you have been through, like I feel sort of amazed at the resiliency of the little Cheryl,
mm-hmm.
of the little you, of all the shit you went through.
Literal.
And actual. And then getting into, so let's talk a little bit about how did you find your way into dance and how did you just a little bit about
Yeah.
how it saved you.
So I wasn't great at school. My mother knew that right away. And my mom, she came from poverty in the Philippines, and she really talk about like the definition of hustler is her, like Sherry Burke. Like she came from the Philippines, married my father. They got a divorce at 2. My first memory was actually of my father with another woman. That's
Mm.
like my very
Mm.
first memory. I like to ask my guests that. I'm like, what's your very first memory? Most of them, they're great memories.
You're just like, my
But
father's
I'm like,
infidelity.
well,
Great.
yeah, this woman had long black hair. He had a thing for Filipinos, and it wasn't his secretary. And
Yeah.
but yeah, my mother was very busy. So in 1984, so she was a nurse, and then she created the very first nursing agency called Nurse Providers, where there's basically, it's like agents, like what agents do for talent, right? In the entertainment
Yep.
industry. I know you were a part of this industry at one point,
It
right?
was
Um,
correct.
I'll interview you one day. Uh,
Yes.
but my mother was never around. And because of that, especially after the divorce, she didn't want to depend on my father for any type of support. He was a successful attorney in the Bay Area and ran off to follow his passion. I don't know if you could swear on this podcast, but
Yep.
PUSSY, and opened up a bunch of strip clubs in Thailand.
Oh,
Literally, yeah. So like that, my mom couldn't have depended on him anyway for that, but
yeah.
she was very independent in that sense and has always taught me never depend on a man for money, and like basically protecting your heart, which I'm a professional at, I must say, which is also something I'm trying not to be a professional at. But
Right.
anyway, and then dance was something that she noticed I never complained about, because it was always like I hated the volleyball, I hated the horseback riding, the soccer. Like I was just like, dragging my feet. But then ballet was when I started dance, and that was at age 4 to 11. I also got, sexually abused as a kid by one of our caretakers. And I think with that, they statistics or psychologists say, maybe correct me if I'm wrong, that you develop earlier, especially as a young woman when you get molested as a little girl.
Mhm.
And so I developed at 9. I got my, I went through all of everything at 9 years old. I had the same body as
Wow.
I do now when I was 9. And so I grew out of my ballet tights quite literally. Like my hips were already there and I just didn't fit in. My mom and stepdad, who is still I call him dad to this day, thank God for
Mhm.
him. They wanted to do like a family sport. We tried tennis. Clearly, that didn't work. We tried golf. That didn't work. And ballroom dancing was something that they were doing because my stepdad's best friend was like, "Oh, you should try this." And I was like, ballroom. And then they were like trying to get me in there. And I was like, this is for old people. This is crazy. Ballroom dancing. Like, no way. My mom
Mhm.
made me go to cotillion. So I was kind of had like a sense of it. And I was like, this is not going to happen. Then she took me to a competition in the Bay Area where I'm from. And they always have competitions in those airport Marriott hotels. And so I saw kids my age dance with a boy. And I was like, sign me up.
I'm in.
And that was it. I saw the makeup, the music. It was so different from ballet and different women, young women in different sizes. Like it was something that was more my jam for sure.
Wow. All right. So then bring us to now you're 21 and you're
I'm 40,
auditioning.
but yeah, back then I was 21. Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
You're
Yes. So
bring
I
us to
was not
then.
auditioning actually. No. So this is what happened. So bring us to Dancing with the Stars is what you're saying, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. So with the ballroom community, first of all, there's this very tight-knit community and it's worldwide. So at 13, I traveled all over the world, trained in England because at that time that's where it was. And our version of the Olympics is in Blackpool, England. And with that, as any sport, there's lots of politics that go behind it.
Mhm.
But I would travel alone with my dance partner at 13 because my mom was busy running her company, Nurse Providers. I lost my virginity at that age
Mhm.
as well. The chaperones that I did have, my stepsister, rest in peace,
Mhm.
she was not very much a chaperone.
Yeah.
She was younger as well, like she was 5 years older than me. But dancing made me really develop fast as if I wasn't already developing fast, but it made me turn into a woman and grow up as an adult really fast. When I was 13, 14, spending summers there, never really experienced like high school, no summer trips, none of that. It was always competing because that was my choice. It wasn't like something that I was forced into at that point. And then I went from partner to partner, dance partner, that is. And the relationships on a personal level was of very much abusive relationships because that was what I knew, right? It felt like home, being treated nice. I'll never forget my very first dance partner was the kindest man, and I was disgusted by how nice he was to
Mhm.
me, which I can now understand why, but I just didn't
Yeah.
understand like why was I doing this to myself? Like I just was so not turned on or not even like I was almost didn't couldn't even look at him like because he was so nice to me. How dare he? Because I didn't
Yeah.
love or respect myself whatsoever,
Right.
obviously. Right before Dancing with the Stars, I turned professional. I danced with my very first pro partner who it tends to happen in this industry. If your partner is not gay, basically you are together, like because you're spending all every day, all day, every day. Was about 12 or 14 years my senior. I was 21, he was
Mhm.
38. No, sorry, way older than me.
Mhm.
And we became romantically involved. It became a little bit abusive, I would say.
Mhm.
And then Dancing with the Stars actually called me because they saw us compete in a competition in Los Angeles. They were wanting to recruit more dancers after season 1, and they only had started out with 6 couples. They called me. One of the pros recommended that they call me. I'm assuming at first it was because I was of Asian descent. I looked different, yet Asian
Yeah.
American, different vibe than what they had. And then I started season 2 basically, and I snuck behind my partner's back because I didn't want him to know that I was auditioning. But they came to Harlem, where I was living at the time in New York, and I went on this audition. I was like, I couldn't talk. I had zero in the ballroom world. It's very much a man's world. So, like, no,
Mhm.
never once was my opinion asked about anything. I didn't have to really say anything, which it continued from when I was traumatized as a little girl. And so only until I started Dancing with Stars, when I had no choice but to speak up for myself, did I actually have a voice. And that's how it all started. And the rest is history.
Wow. Yeah, it is. So you did 26 seasons? How many seasons?
26. Yeah, we used to do two
Wow.
seasons a year. So I started at 21 and I just retired 2 years ago at 38. So
Wow. So how was it for you to retire?
I'm still grieving. It's really
Hmm.
tough. Yeah, it's tough, but I knew in my heart that I needed to do it because I started to feel very stagnant. And with any company as well, like you want to be able to feel like you can grow within the company. But if you can't, that's fine too. And obviously, that wasn't the option. So I left. And after
Right.
26 seasons of something, again, I don't like to just get too comfortable in life in general.
Right. And you've done other things, of course,
Of course, yes.
outside of that, but that really is a lot of working for such a long period of
Well, my
time.
mental
And
health too. Yes.
well, that's exactly what I was just going to bring
Yeah.
it to, is that you finally got to a place where you're
Yeah.
like, I really think I need to prioritize this. Now,
Absolutely.
I stopped drinking as well. I know that you did too.
Congrats.
Well, thanks. But I stopped before you were born. I literally stopped in 1987.
Hey, that's amazing.
Yeah. So that's been a long time. But I'd love to know a little bit about, for you, what brought you to that. How do you feel about it? I know I think you have 6 years. Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
congrats. So what brought you to deciding to stop?
I'm going to be completely transparent and honest. Vanity reasons. I was engaged and my father had just passed away.
Hmm.
And when I tell you I was a functioning drunk, when I wasn't drinking, people were asking me what was wrong. Cause like it was interesting. And I believe that's the most dangerous form of alcoholism. When you come across normal to people,
Yep.
I'm an addict, very resourceful, as I'm sure a lot of people can relate.
Hmm.
No one would know. I wasn't that person
Same.
and it's scary.
Hmm.
I always say at the height of my career was the height of my drinking too. It was like, which is in a way that is my hitting rock bottom because I'm like, do I need to just go back there then? Because I was the most out on paper, obviously, that not as a
Of
person,
course.
but like the mirror balls. Should I just go back there and start drinking again because it seemed to have
Hmm.
worked, you know? But obviously, that's just my lazy brain talking. I'm not really intentional when I think that way. But yeah. So as far as my mental health goes with the show, it's just what was your question again? So sorry.
Well, basically, you were numbing, right, for a long
Yes, big
time,
time. Yeah.
numbing feelings, numbing situations, and
Yes.
it's interesting when you just said that it was the height of your sort of career and your height of your mirror balls when you were drinking, but part of it is you were working in such a
Hmm.
way that was sort of inhumane, the amount
Yeah.
that you were working for so long, and what you would have to do to be able to do that because it was so physical. And I know from what you've
Yeah.
talked about that it's just a lot. So in a way, it
A
makes
lot.
sense. And even though 6 years is amazing and it's a long time, but the truth is it's not, because you are developing now, and I can see it
Yeah.
over really watching you and watching your
Oh
social,
yeah.
how you're thawing. It's like when we stop the numbing. I remember when I stopped drinking, how, and I think the first time that I had was sexual, not being drunk, because I
Interesting.
was almost, almost, because I was in college still when I stopped drinking my senior year, like 3 months left of college. And I remember being like, oh my God, this is life. Like, this is eyes wide open, how everything seemed so like scary and
Clear,
clear, like in a way where you're like,
but
ooh,
not in a good way.
no, in a way that you were like, please, I would like the mask to come back.
Sometimes.
But right, but then over time, at least for me,
Mm.
I was like, oh my God, eyes wide open. Like, I'm feeling everything, but I'm alive. I feel so
Yeah.
alive. And I still do
Yeah.
a million years later.
Yeah.
So for you, what was the sort of getting into recovery? How have you been, and how did you then deal with the feelings that then you were now
Yeah.
not numbing?
So, and now I remember your question. It was about what made me stop. Well, I started breaking out
Yeah.
into hives. So the poison that I was putting in my
Mm,
body, and I think it had a lot to do with I think stress response, but also my response to grieving my father's death, though I didn't know what that was. And I didn't, and I'm a professional number. I could just like, honestly, like it is, I am an expert at more than ballroom dancing, at numbing. And
Yep.
that was no longer working for my body. And it started coming out in different ways. And I remember it was my engagement party, and it was an interesting time because not only did my father pass, my ex-husband was with me at the time. We're here to celebrate. And just at this engagement party, Robert and Kim Hershevek was so kind to host this for us. I chose that night not to drink anymore, but it was not to drink that night. Like, I get very overwhelmed easily. And when I get overwhelmed, then I start to think about wanting to drink. So
Hmm.
I said, I can't tell anybody in my mind, because once I do, then again, that's more pressure for me to like, okay, well, I'm not going
Right.
to, yeah. But I stopped drinking the night of our engagement party, and I haven't picked up a drink since. I'm not going to say I haven't thought about it, because I have,
Yeah.
especially through the last few years of my life. But yeah, that's how it started. And the
Wow.
hives I couldn't handle, because obviously, you know, this I'm vain.
I love it. I don't care by hook or by crook, whatever it is that gets us to stop. If we need to stop,
Exactly.
great. Good for
Hey,
that.
yeah.
But then when the feelings started coming, like for
Yeah.
you, like instead, now that's the thing, right? This was adaptive. Drinking was adaptive,
Mm-hmm.
meaning that there was a reason. We don't do it because we're stupid. We do it because there's a reason why. It's
Mm-hmm.
soothing something. It's letting us for me, I used to always say it's the only way that I can exhale, right? I was so
I think a lot of people say
constricted,
that. Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Everyone's
but
like,
but
oh, I'm
then the
so stressed.
feelings
Let's have a
come.
drink. Let's have a drink. It's like, why not have a celery stick?
Oh, but I would want to have a drink if I was happy, sad. Let's celebrate.
Oh,
Let's.
and I
I'm
wouldn't have one
depressed.
drink. No, it's like,
Oh,
it's either
never.
go in or get out of my house, you know,
Totally.
all or
Oh
nothing.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
I
no, it
was.
was
Yeah.
scary. It actually started with my ex-husband. Like, it was interesting because I noticed as we were planning for, or as I was planning for the wedding, I hired Mindy Weiss, the best of the best.
Hmm.
I micromanaged her, and I was like, oh, interesting. Normally I would just have a drink when I want to like start micromanaging people, let alone turn into a bridezilla. Like, I was never the little girl who was dreaming of her wedding. Like, I was just wanting to stay alive. Like, I'm not trying
Yeah.
to dream of a beautiful wedding, no matter if I've seen the notebook or not, or whatever stuff is out there promoting different kinds of love, I guess. But it was really difficult because I'm starting to also see that my new drug, and it has been since I stopped, really is productivity and
Yeah.
working really hard, because maybe I'm only used to that from the show, seeing my mother work really hard constantly. Um,
Hmm.
this is a socially acceptable drug,
Yeah.
but I'm aware of it. But I'm not going
In
to say I've recovered.
Can I tell you that in this book, Too Much, I talk so much about the overfunctioning, the overworking, the overgiving, the overfeeling, the overdoing, like all the things. But with workaholism, it is exactly right. It is socially sanctioned.
Yeah.
And when I stopped drinking, that became my ambition, was always my drug after that. And it's taken years. And I've been having a
Oof.
dedicated meditation practice for years,
Yeah.
trying to do all the things to counter it. And yet, the first thing when I quote unquote relapse, it's never on alcohol or anything like that, but it's getting back into that vibe of just working on weekends, working too much, working late into the night. Like, it's so
It makes you
addicting
think,
when you're an
yes,
addict.
more than alcohol, I think, ever was for me.
Yeah. Yep.
It's interesting because we
And
celebrate the hustle here. I've lived all over the world, and people think we're crazy if you leave, the country, because it is. It's absolutely insane if you really take a step back.
oh, yeah. And we've normalized the hustle culture. And I think that there is so much of what I'm talking about and about high functioning codependency is that there's a better way and a different way, and a way that we don't have to self abandon
Hmm.
to do the things that we want to
How?
do. That, well, we have to
Read your book.
prioritize. That's correct. But really, though, Cher, it's what is it really? It's
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
knowing that how you feel,
Mhm.
what you think, what you want matters. And those three things need to matter to you more than what anyone else in the world wants, thinks, or feels.
Oof. That's a really easy yet so deep. Like, it, because it starts first with self love, right? Like, or self like, even just to like
Yeah.
yourself, being able to not have, see, like the show defined me. That was my identity. I said this in my farewell speech. That's been
Yeah.
my identity. Like, and red flag right there.
Yeah.
If I were to put a red flag on anything. And I didn't know that, even though even back then, I was still doing a lot of work, but I'm only getting to the point now where I still don't think I can say that nothing outside of me is my identity,
Hmm.
because I hear or I feel in my body. I'm very much more somatic than it's harder for me to translate into words. Obviously, I'm a
Yeah.
dancer, and I can't hide whatever feeling comes up in my body, but I don't need to voice
Hmm.
it as quickly.
Hmm.
But as far as like me really trying to figure out who I am, I will for the rest of my life, because I still get excited when outside offers or jobs come. Like I get to, it's
Hmm.
my response to that is like it's not healthy. But I'm trying to be kind and compassionate, and
Yeah.
I with myself, because and that's another thing that is not something I'm used to yet, you know.
Right. But that is part of being in recovery of
Mm-hmm.
high functioning codependency and all the other stuff is what I call, I take like self love and self care. I put it all under the umbrella of self consideration
Hmm.
because self consideration is so much bigger, where the offer comes in and it feels so good to the ego and it's like validating, like people still love me and people still want me. And then we don't answer the offer. We sit and think, do I want to be away from my home for that period of time? Do I like the other people involved in this thing? Is it the right amount of money for me to do it? Is it worth it? What else am I going to have to give up? Like literally, the self consideration is who we let into our VIP sections in our lives,
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Who has access to our most tender hearts? Are they emotionally trustworthy people?
Mm-hmm.
And if they're not, they need to get the out and hit the mezzanine. Like they do not belong in your VIP section if they're not
And
emotionally trustworthy.
I agree with you. I mean, wholeheartedly here. And don't be surprised if there's only a few people on one hand that you can count that are
Yeah,
left, which is fine with me, because it's
same.
hard enough for me to show up for myself, let alone for my friends, you know.
Yeah. So talking about disassociation and reactions to like trauma
Mm-hmm.
responses. And I saw something that you'd put up the other day just talking about the power in a way, just let's just talk about the power of disassociation. Not
Mm-hmm.
something, first of all, let's talk about what it is, and
Okay.
let's talk about how have you employed it in your life,
Mm-hmm.
and let's not necessarily demonize it, you know what I mean?
No, and that's what my video was about on
Yes,
Instagram. It's like sometimes we forget to thank our bodies for the survival that is the reason why I'm still standing here. Honestly, I don't think like you said, I've been through a lot of shit, and that's to say it lightly. And my stepsister, who went through something similar when we were a kid, you know, she's now passed. And oh my goodness, yeah. In order for me to, I mean, like, look, could it? I'm my biggest critic, right? Like, this is a lot to do with just
mhm,
everybody is, but also with the dancing world and like being coached my whole life. Like, I'm like, I'm blunt, but no, I need to be kinder to myself. And I think a
uh-huh,
lot of people can relate to this if they can really observe, you know, sometimes your thoughts are just horrible. Like my thoughts are
oh,
horrible.
it's
I
like
mean,
the meanest inner
oh my
committee,
God.
right? Like
My
just the mean girl committee, just in the
Mean
mind.
Girls, but times 20, because I tell my dance partners or the celebs I've taught, like, you think I'm mean to you? What do you think I'm saying to myself? Like,
Right.
that should be a
Right.
sketch. But yeah, I just sometimes feel like we forget to thank our bodies are so complex, because for
Mhm.
those of us that are still standing, like that is a blessing in itself.
The thing with disassociating, it's like when you're a child and you experience abuse,
Hmm.
sexual abuse, whatever it may be. So you're literally, it's adaptive. Like how amazing that your little mind can find a place to go, so that you are protected from the horror of the moment.
Yeah.
And so part of what happens, at least in my therapy practice, is that exactly what you were saying. I was so drawn to that Instagram post because of what you were saying. Like people sometimes want to vilify this or make it be
Mhm.
like it's terrible. You're like, here's the thing. It's the thing that made me not crack in half psychologically. That it's the thing that saved me. Now, do I want to be disassociating in my adult life? I don't. I
Mm-mm.
don't. I mean, unless I'm in a really traumatic situation where I need to
Of
really
course.
badly.
Yeah. Yes.
But generally speaking, it's being mindful
Mhm.
that if you feel yourself leaving your body in that way, if you feel yourself
Mhm.
floating above a scene in that way, we have to question, because this is the whole thing of integrating the traumas that we've experienced, is
Mhm.
that when they're integrated, they're not, a similar situation won't trigger this immediate disassociative experience,
Right, right, right.
right? Because
Right.
it's like, if you've already gone through the trauma work, you've sort of integrated those experiences. They don't define us,
No.
right? And as you have said and do say, memories don't define us, and they don't. Cheryl, I love that quote in one of your, something
Yeah.
online I saw.
I was home. Yeah, because that's where that's where the home
Yes,
I got sexually abused in. And so like
yes.
for me to say that what I there's a fine line between memories don't define us and uh just think of happy thoughts. Like that is something
Yeah.
I don't have friends like that like anymore because it's
Mm-mm.
hard. That is something that is also another form of numbing, I believe, or just disassociating maybe. I don't know. You tell me.
I call it hyperpositivity.
Oh, yeah, I can't handle
And
that.
it's no, and people who are like a silver lining detective, that no matter what terrible, awful thing happened to you, they're like, well,
Think
at
of
least
rainbows.
this didn't. Think of rainbow. Think of unicorns right now.
Like I just can't. It's hard. That's hard for me. I have compassion for
Well,
them though, because they must be hurting inside.
yeah, but here's the thing. I don't need, for me, I've got zero tolerance in my life. Like, what I'm telling you is not about you, it's about me. And if you can't hang with me in the foxhole of my pain,
Amen.
then you're not in my VIP section. Then you don't belong there,
Correct. Yes.
right? You
Yes.
need to be
Yes.
able to witness and be like, here, you can say, how can I best support you right now? That would
If
be
you want to
great.
say anything, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
You can hold
Right.
my hand. You can go make me a cup of tea. If you're my husband, you can have sex with me. I mean, there's lots of things that you can do, right? But
For sure.
not minimizing my feeling, or not the hyper positivity thing, which
Mm.
we also see online quite a bit,
Oh yeah.
where people are like, everything happens for a reason. You're like, stop saying that right now.
I can't. That's just lazy. You're lazy. That's a lazy
I
ass answer.
hate that.
I hate it. I mean, look, there's a certain but if we want to talk philosophically, that's another conversation. But like, don't just no one is even asking. I was never am I asking for anyone's advice.
Totally.
And I think, and let me tell you, same for me. I didn't realize how rude. I believe it's so rude to give people advice but not asked. Like, I'm so
Yes.
sorry. And I
That's
learned this in
called,
one of my AA meetings, like
yes.
by an older woman. And I was like, wait, can you say that again? Because I was like, oh my God, I'm guilty, still am for that. It
Yes.
takes a lot of, having to be present to stop myself because we think we're helping.
But also, it's called auto advice giving. And this is a part of
Okay.
being a high functioning codependent as well,
I have to read your
where
book.
you will,
Yes.
don't worry.
Okay. Okay.
I mean, part of this though is that we think we're doing it from love. But I always say, and when I talk about this publicly, people will say, well, what, I'm just being nice. What's wrong with being nice? And I'm thinking, if you can't not do it, you're not being nice, but it's a compulsion, and you're doing it for you,
Ah,
not them,
ugh, I just got
right?
chills. Yes.
Yeah, their pain is making you uncomfortable. So you're
Oh,
like,
it's
I'm going to
out of
fix it right
love.
now.
Yeah. No, no, no,
Mm-mm.
no. I'm
It's out of
triggering you.
control.
Yes.
It's a covert or overt
Oh
bid
my
to
gosh.
control someone else's stuff. And what
Mm,
ends up happening is that, again, there's that over responsibility too, especially if we were kids who had adults that we couldn't necessarily count on. This breeds high functioning codependency, because we did it because, hi, nobody else was going to. And that is the truth. In
surviving. We're surviving.
right.
Yeah.
But we were like little adults. The
Yeah.
parentification, which is what you've been talking about, Cher, a lot of your experiences
Wait,
traveling
can you
alone at
say that word
13.
again? What is that word?
Sure. Parentification.
What does that mean?
It means that as a child, you had adult responsibilities, and there was an expectation of you that you would act in an adult way, like traveling by yourself with a dance partner at 13 to
Or
Europe.
just, yeah, ballroom
Or
dancing. This is why if I ever have kids, never.
no, definitely they're not doing that. But
No,
what do we lose, right? What do we lose from being parentified
to be
is
a kid.
exactly.
Joy, fun, playful.
Yeah.
Now I'm like, people are saying be playful. I'm like, with my dog, I definitely like I was never like that till I was intentional about it. Even singing in the shower, only recently.
Yep.
Like, you know,
Joy. It's so
yeah.
important. I'm actually going to be doing a retreat after this book comes out. So spring of 25, where we're basically doing all the things for all of us who grew up and became high functioning
Mm,
codependents that we didn't get. And so much of it is relaxation, where like you don't have to worry about anything because me and my team have everything.
oh,
Just
that's
having
gonna be
fun for the
hard.
sake of having fun. I know. I can't.
Arts
It's so
and
funny.
crafts.
Arts and crafts, sleeping in, eating s'mores, just having fun. It's funny having a mastermind group. And of course, the women attracted to my work are like you and like me. So high functioning codependent, even if I'm in recovery. And so being in retreat with them, because I do a retreat with for my mastermind group twice a year, they're the most efficient people you've ever met in your life. So imagine 10 of them in a
Yes.
room.
Those people.
And my team is like, listen, you're doing nothing. They want to clean up. I'm like, you're not cleaning. You're not helping. You're just receiving because that's
Oh,
something
that's
that we're really
hard.
bad at.
Oh yeah. This is you're speaking. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like I'm not even there. When you say like doing nothing, can we have our cell phones or
Nope.
oh, I was about to say I want to go until you just said no.
You can have it for 20 minutes a day
That's
for important
can't
things.
post an Instagram in 20 minutes. I'm kidding. That's
We're going to meditate.
yeah,
We're going
no,
to
that is
relax.
important.
It really is something that when you start doing it though, it changes your life. So even if
Yeah.
it's when you think about for you, what are the things that
Yes.
that help you
Hmm.
calm your mind? What helps you stay on this course that you have started carving out for yourself?
First of all, I moved out of the environment I felt like was contributing amazing things, yes, but also towards the end, toxicity everywhere. And I'm not saying the people like, oh, I'm running away from them. No, I'm
Yep.
just running away because I'm just trying to follow how I feel. And at that time in my life, it was like, get out as fast as you can.
Hmm.
So I'm putting myself first. And this is another video that I just shot recently about like being brave to do that, because it's not easy to choose you. Like that's not what another social norm that is just so not, people think you're selfish. And since when was the word selfish such a bad word? Like,
Yes.
I don't understand why that's negative. Like,
Yep.
how do we even provide for my Frenchie, my dog, if I
Yeah.
don't provide for me first?
Yep.
Like, period.
And it's self-sufficiency, right? It's self-love, it's self-consideration, as we were talking about before. You should go on Jenny Garth's new show,
I
I
think we
Choose
are. We're
Me.
doing it. Yeah, we are.
Oh my God,
We're
that's
doing
so
a
funny because
swap. Yeah.
yes, I was just texting with her.
No, I love
I was
her.
just
She's great.
yes,
Yeah, she's
she's
great.
amazing. Um, and that's she's come to so much of I mean, what she's come to in her story is so much of the same, being young in Hollywood, going through the experiences that she's gone through,
Hmm.
never even thinking about just doing what is expected, just doing the work, being happy to be working, but
Hmm.
never really feeling like she was choosing herself or her path. And
She
yeah,
is, I must say, I've met a lot of people and she is I've never met her in an environment where she's so present. Makes me feel like I have so much work to do. But she is very present considering
yes,
like I married a child actor, like it's not, and I've danced with child actors and I've danced with people who have been in the business for decades and decades and decades. She's a rare bird, but wow,
yeah,
like she's very inspiring. And yeah, I think we can all learn from her on that. But
yeah,
it's hard, especially when I'm being like, this is why I like, so I've learned, going back to your initial question, I've learning to be alone but not lonely was a
Mm.
huge, and I'm still figuring it out as always. I'm not like, check, okay, what's next on the to-do list? Like this is all
Right.
lifelong lessons. But like
Yes.
I love my alone time. And if you were to say this to me when I was still active on the show, I would have been like, there's no way in hell. There I was never alone. I went, and this is why I'm choosing celibacy and choosing to not date. Regardless, some people are just so rude, regardless of what people might have to say. But for me, I've been in like relationship. I've never been single like ever in my life since I was
Hmm.
13. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, this has been very empowering for me, and I am not even near or close to wanting to even try to date at the moment. I think I've dated one person, one night, one dinner a year ago, and I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's time for you though. There really is this incredibly it's so valuable, this
Mm,
alone time, because if you
mm-hmm,
really are a relationship gal, I was a serial monogamous as well. That's what you're
mm-hmm,
talking about,
mm-hmm,
where you just go from one to the next to the next to the next
mm-hmm,
forever and ever. And
mm-hmm.
before I met my husband, I was single for like 2 years. And I learned, my therapist made me spend time alone. She like made
Interesting.
it be like an actual task. She's like, Tara, you have to sit in stillness and silence. You have to stop being so social. You have to fit. What are you
But that was
afraid
your
to
job,
face?
wasn't it?
Well, I mean, I've been with my husband 27 years. So,
Oh, got
right,
it.
I was still a talent agent.
Right. That's what I mean. But like you had to be social. Like that was part of the
Yeah, that's
curriculum.
true. Yeah, but the compulsive nature of never wanting to be alone,
Yeah,
which is
yeah.
what you're
That's
talking
different.
about, because I
Hmm.
didn't want to be alone with my thoughts. I was
Amen.
not sure who I was. I was worried if I was doing the right thing and should I switch careers and all the things. And there was something so powerful about just focusing on how I felt, what I wanted to do, where I wanted to go, traveling by myself for the first time,
Good
taking
for
myself out to dinner
you.
for the first time by myself.
Wow, I haven't done
Like,
that yet.
yeah, and it's a little different because I wasn't famous and you are. So I feel like it's slightly different. Do you know what I mean? Because
Yeah,
yes, yes, you can do it, but
yeah.
do it somewhere where people don't know it's going to be you
In
or
my
wear a
kitchen.
hat. Exactly. Maybe bring in someone to cook
I
dinner
mean,
for
my
you. But
therapist, I have to say, is a little worried that I haven't. Not worried, but like sometimes,
mhm,
she sees how, well, first of all, I've been with her for 15 years. So like she's seen it all. And she just wants to make sure that I'm not isolating myself. And I understand where she gets that concern.
yeah,
And I have been loving this too much, but then I think it has created maybe a little social anxiety. I'm also, like you said, I feel like I'm reborn because like
yeah,
I'm only 6 years old.
exactly. You're like, and doing that inner child work if you haven't done it.
Yeah,
Like
no, it's a
really,
lot.
it is a lot, but it's so fun and it's liberating.
Oh,
And
fun,
I,
but
you
liberating.
know,
Yes.
yeah, okay, a little bit of fun, a little bit of
Yeah.
work, but
Yeah. Well,
either way,
yes. Yes.
I want to say that for those of you guys listening, like where can people find you now?
Hmm.
Tell me.
Well, I you can find me on my website, Cheryl dash, not slash, dash
Mhm.
Burke.com. I actually created a movement-based somatic program called Body Language. And I am, though it's slowly still in the making, I'm offering it for free. I just wanted people to really try it. And with this program, it's been 10 years in the making, honestly, and it's been so challenging to, okay, like there was two ways, and it's black and white like this. It's either I'm
Mhm.
doing an exercise dance, let's go Zumba video, or I am doing and giving back what I believe has saved my life, which is,
Mm,
though not intentional when I was dancing as much, especially as a
mm,
little girl, but it's really being, body awareness is the first step, I think, to
absolutely.
any type of awareness in general. Like
Yep.
if you are not feeling where the anxiety is, and you can't tell me if it's your left pinky toe or if it's your, belly button that's
Yep.
vibrating, then there's a problem, I believe. Like you can't even start the work yet until you're aware of and take accountability for wherever it is that you're feeling pain. If you, especially if it's hard to translate into words, and if you can't afford therapy, because damn, that's expensive.
Yep.
um so yeah, you can check that out there, and also all my social media platforms, at Cheryl Burke. That's it for now.
It's so great, and I have to say, I have loved and continue to love watching you flourish and
Thank
lead
you.
and allow us into your life. Like, you have such a beautiful, bright light, and you have such, a warm heart. And, Cher, you are, like, helping so many people. So one
Oh,
last request I have as your new bestie
yes, you
is,
are.
can we stop, like, frig the haters?
Yeah.
You really have to limit how much of that crap you read, please.
I love the block button. I really do. But I also love right
Great.
now, I'm in the era of clapping back like Simone Biles. Like I have to, because like
I love it.
listen, if I don't, I will literally in my body, I will
Yep.
that one out of a million comments, I
Yep.
will just hold it in there and then the negative self-talk. So I am in my clapping back era. So don't you get it
Yes.
twisted, people. You're gonna clap back at me. I'm gonna clap back at you, and then I'm gonna block you afterwards. So double
Right.
whammy.
I love it. Well, thank you, thank you, thank you. I so
Thank you.
appreciate you and can't wait to
Thank
see
you.
all the more exciting things you're going to be doing.
Thank you.